Welcome to It's Beyond the Food podcast, my sisters. I'm your host, Stephanie Dodier, and today we're going to talk about how to integrate body image work in your coaching. In my population of ideal clients, health professionals, health coaches, the level of discomfort expressed by my client when it comes to body image, their self-assessment of being, lack of a better word, incompetent in helping body image leads people to avoid that part of health coaching completely. And what I hear the most often when people are finished working with me is, I wish I found you sooner. I knew that body image was the root cause of the reason why people were coming to see me, but my client didn't know, and I didn't know how to have the conversation with them. I didn't know how to help them. I want to walk you through some thoughts, some ideas, some process that you could start integrating in your health coaching business without making the number one mistake of going radical and changing your entire health coaching business to make it, quote, anti-diet, body image work, and that's all we do over here. Integrating body image work doesn't mean having to revolutionize your entire business. Now, I say this being someone whose entire business is about that, but remember what I do. I train health professionals in the specific context of body image and cognitive behavior coaching. So yeah, that's my entire business, but I help you learn how to do that so you can go into the world and divest this information. I have clients who've graduated from the program that are executive coach, motherhood coach. I have dietitian, I have therapists, but they're not strictly focused on just body image. So how do we take the world of body image and integrate it in your practice so it becomes one of the tools that you're using to help your client achieve success? I'm going to walk you through some tips, but I want to first get us started with some facts. Recognize the gap in our industry. Recognize the gap in your, however you've been trained, certification, or a degree, example, a dietetic degree, body image, and even a coaching framework to help your client develop new habits wasn't taught to you. It wasn't taught to you for a number of reasons, but I will say the primary reason why it wasn't taught to you, body image particularly, is because most training and certification programs in the world as of today are rooted in fat phobia. They're rooted in weight stigma. They're rooted in, quote unquote, weight loss. Helping people accept their body is contradictory to the whole reason why you're doing this training or this certification for. The other piece that to me is very important for you to understand is that in the world of health coaching, the way that the health coaching framework were built, they were built to support diet culture and wellness culture, not integrating the actual science of behavioral change. When you look at the facts around behavioral change, it does not fit an agenda of diet culture and wellness culture. It doesn't blend together because how humans successfully change their behavior could not reside within dieting and dictatorship of what people eat and move and which supplement they take. It's counterindicative. Therefore, it's my opinion. That's why it's being pushed aside. So you're here today because it wasn't part of your training. You didn't do anything wrong. It's not because you're incompetent. It's because you weren't trained in it. The other piece that I want to make clear to everyone who's listening to this episode is that specifically in the world of nutrition, there is a demonstrated evidence-based link between people's eating behavior and their body image. The number one predictor of restrictive eating is body dissatisfaction. People who are dissatisfied with their body are significantly more likely to engage in restrictive eating behavior, at least try to control their food so they can control their weight. And here's where it gets crazy. As people enter restrictive eating or controlled eating behavior, it increases body dissatisfaction. Because the more focused they are on not being satisfied with their body and the more effort people output trying to shrink their body to feel dissatisfied, the more the focus of most of their life becomes their body. And it increased the fact that they're not looking the way they want to look. It's like this vicious circle that never ends. I'm going to link a couple of studies in the show notes just in case you doubt it. There's research behind it, and which is going to bring me to my other point, screening. How do we introduce body image work? What is the first step? To me, the first step is our professional due diligence. Are you screening? Do you have a screening process, evaluation, assessment to discover if your client is dissatisfied with their body? Are they using their eating behavior, their food choices to manipulate their body? A majority of people who start working with me, professional, they say no. They do not have a screening process. A screening process here is not asking your client, how do you make your food choices? Or tell me what you eat in the day, or tell me about your relationship to food. That's not a screening process. A screening process will ask you very specific questions and lead you to make an assessment on their eating behavior. I have a free one. The non-diet coaching certification assessment tool that we give to all of our students is actually the one thing I give for free to anybody who comes to see me. If you go into the show note of this podcast or www.stephaniedodier.com/non-diet assessment tool, you can download an eating behavior assessment tool, a body image assessment tool. That's right. You can screen all of your clients and get a result on where they sit in the scale of body image and a mindset assessment. That is the first place you can start with your client. As you onboard every new client, it is part of your onboarding process to screen them, and that will give you an inside look in their mind, in their emotion, in the behavioral picture of how they're approaching health behavior. The second place we want to introduce the conversation of body image is we screen, then we set goals, right? We should be spending our first session with our clients setting the goals for the work we're going to do together. How do you have the conversation about goal? Do you have in your practice an allowance or a letting your client choose their goal based on weight loss? Do you determine with them a weight loss goal? Or instead, do you set health goals, which is two different things? Now, if you are brand new to this world and you're coming from hardcore diet culture health coaching, this would be a stretch for you. But if you are a midline health coach, you do have the conversation about weight loss, but that's not what you sell as what you do. Then perhaps it is time for you to move up that progressive line of not having the conversation about weight loss, but instead about health. Introducing the concept of weight neutral health, broadening the scope of your client's understanding around health, and the kind of goal they can set in order for them to get better health, if that's what they're looking for, without involving restrictive eating, which we know causes body dissatisfaction and gets people in that vicious cycle. So look at your goal setting process and perhaps start shifting the kind of goal you set with your clients. The number one place where we're going to take action is you, personally, the health professional or the coach. Before guiding your client into body image work, before introducing the conversation about body image in your practice, it is essential that you examine your own body image, your own beliefs about bodies, about health, and about weight. So we'll go back to the free assessment tool that I gave you access to. Do this assessment on you first, particularly the eating and the body image assessments. Do it on you and see what comes out. Do you have a beginning understanding of how you would guide yourself if your body image comes out as negative body image? Would you know what to do with yourself? Would you be able to guide yourself to go to the midline, which is body neutrality, in order to then have a conversation with your client? Then start examining your beliefs, right? What do you believe about body weight? What do you believe about health? Do you associate health with body size? Have you internalized good bodies and bad bodies? How do you feel about your own body and how it impacts your coaching? Start shifting the language that you use in your practice. We don't need any intervention at the client level. We're still within your own self, right? We're looking at our own belief, our own body image. Then we're looking at the language that we're using. Are we using the O word? Are we using the obesity word? Which we know that obesity, there's a large amount of shame and stigma around it. And we know that the word obesity comes from the BMI. And we know that the BMI it's not an effective way of categorizing people's health. So are you using that language in your practice? Are you using the language? I'll give you another example. Healthier weight, natural weight, right? Are you using these terms, this language that without saying there's good weight and bad weight, there's this place where you are presuming that certain kind of weight are better than other because they're called healthier weight. My recommendation for you is to adopt a weight neutral language in your conversation with yourself and your client. Third action step is starting the intervention with educating your client on body image without overwhelming them, without going all black and white here. And my best way for you to start educating is with the screening. When I used to work with average population, people would come in and not necessarily knew that we would do body image work, but because we were doing the assessment, I always started with the eating because I'm a nutritionist, right? That's why people came to me. So we started with eating, and then I would say, okay, we'll do the next one, which is body image. And then I would watch their face and they would have that look of surprise. Why are we doing that? Great question, because based on research, there is a strong link between how you feel about your body and your eating behavior. So the screening right now will help us uncover if that's the case for you. From the very first appointment, I could start having that conversation around body image. The other place where you can place this gentle introduction around body image is when you're doing a health history, a dieting history. Like if you're going through historically in their past what they've tried that didn't work, perhaps you can start asking questions. And you're seeing a lot of food restriction and dieting. Perhaps you can have a question in that history intake to say, do you know what diet culture is? Or how do you think diet culture has influenced this historical pattern around your eating behavior? Or if they're talking about health and weight, you could ask a question like, where did you learn that your weight was a sign of your health? Tell me more. Now, for those of you who are familiar with cognitive behavior coaching, you know where I'm going right now. I'm going into people giving me their thoughts about health and about weight so I can see how it influenced their behavior. This is a very gentle way for you to have a conversation around body image without making it the centerpiece of your relationship. The next action item for you will be, in your session, we've done the screening, we've done the history, we've asked some questions. As we help people ongoing, help them shine a light on how their body image or body dissatisfaction actually influence their behavior. So a classic example of that is, I'm always going to remember this client who we were talking about emotional eating at work, where she couldn't stop but eat all the things in her drawer and eat her lunch while she started her day. And we unpack one particular day of what had happened to cause this deep emotional distress in her that caused the emotional eating pattern. Come to find out, in her closet that morning, getting ready for work, she tried on two to three pair of pants and none fit. And she was completely distraught by that. So the emotional eating at 10, 11, noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon were actually the results of her intense body dissatisfaction that had happened at 6 a.m. Helping her link the two allowed me to show her how her body image in a regular day-to-day life created behavior in order to cope with the body dissatisfaction. The next action item for you will be focusing on body trust and self-compassion instead of accountability. Because the goal of body image work is not for our client to completely overhaul their body image overnight, but instead to learn to trust and respect their body enough to care for them. Instead of asking for accountability and asking them like, what happened? Why didn't you do this? Here's two questions you can start asking. What did you feel in the moment where you didn't do X, Y, and Z you were supposed to do? And what do you think you needed in that moment? Or if you're asking in the present moment, you can say, what do I feel? What do you feel? What do you need? These two questions helps people connect with their bodily sensation, put a name on their emotion, and then recognize in the moment what their body needed instead of trying to willpower their way through a behavior that they want to have. Recognize that their body is talking to them. That if they learn the language of their body in the moment, they learn to reconnect with their body cue, name their emotion, name their needs. In the long term, they will be able to approach behavioral change from a place of caring for their body and themselves instead of willpower their way through it. Again, I'm going to start recapping as we're coming to the end of this podcast. Make body image work part of every single intervention session that you have with your client. That it is around nutrition, goal setting, or exercise. How can you integrate what they believe about their body, what they feel about their body, what they think about their body influence the current conversation that you're having with them. Encourage also next step learning as you ask those powerful coaching questions, as you start shining the light on how potentially how they feel and what they believe about their body is impacting the exact thing they're trying to achieve. And you can see that curiosity in them. You can see the question coming at you. Encourage continued learning. Recommend books, recommend podcasts, make a list of, like, go through my feed right now and select like 2 to 3 podcast episodes that you think, when your client signified to you that they're ready for the next step, that they can listen to. Perhaps this is a great place for you to think about long form content, right? Based on your area of specialty, how are those conversations, these moments of curiosity from your client, what topic do they come onto, right? So for an example, if I think about my clients that are some type of mom coaches, the number one topic that always come in their conversation with their client is the body image of their kids, right? My child came back from school and told me XYZ happened, and I felt totally paralyzed having the conversation with my kid. Or my teenage daughter came back home and wanted to start a diet. How do I have this conversation with my child? For my clients, the professional and the coaches that are specializing in moms, this is the number one point of conversation where clients raise their hand and ask for help. Create a blog, create your own podcast episode, create a YouTube video about this, and deliver that next level of education in your particular field of expertise. And in time, that long form content will perhaps bring you in your exact specific ideal client, because you're addressing the issue that's on their mind that they're perhaps alone dealing with, because they're not in a relationship with a coach like you, so they don't know where to find this information. So as they're Googling it, boom, they're finding your piece of content, and they're perhaps inquiring and working with you. I just gave you a little bit of marketing coaching here. So these are all simple, gentle ways that you can start integrating body image coaching in your current practice. I'm going to quickly recap 5 takeaways of all the things that I say. Here's the 5 things I would put on your list. Number 1, download the free screening tool, screen yourself, and then start integrating screening with all of your clients. 2, start your own education. Right? If you're new to me, I have a lot of podcast episodes around body image and food behavior. Scroll through the podcast feed, find them. Think about perhaps taking one of my workshops. If you go at stephaniedodier.com/shop, I have 2 low-cost body image 3-hour workshop teaching you the fundamental of body image. You can also perhaps twice a year, I run a body image coaching mentorship where I teach you the fundamental of body image coaching, or perhaps in the future, the non-diet coaching certification when you're ready to get certified in this approach. Go one step at a time, right? That's why, did you notice when I gave you those resources, I scaled them up based on your level of readiness and intensity? Do the same thing with your client. One step at a time. Weave it into your coaching instead of making it the center of your coaching. And normalize your own discomfort in talking about body image which will normalize your client's discomfort of not knowing that that was the roots of their relationship with food. Share your story, normalize it for them, their level of frustration and discomfort having these conversations in the same way that I'm normalizing it with you today. I love you, my sister, and I'll see you on the next podcast episode. If you are listening to the podcast, you're probably in need of support. You have to come and grab our free non-diet coaching assessment tool and the how to use audio training at stephaniedodier.com/client assessment. And if you want support with the concept taught on the podcast and take your skills to the next level, we have a number of resources and programs on the shop page of our website. The best bet is for you to join our newsletter to get all the deeds as they become available. And I'll see you on the other side.